isobaric patterns are there. So out of 7 characteristics isobaric patterns, there are only 2 types of weather systems which are fundamental. What I was telling you, the depression and the anticyclone, or low pressure and the high pressure, what we call. Remainder being either outward extensions from one of these or a neutral area between them. So ये जो 7 distinctive isobaric forms are there, जो आपको question में भी आ सकता है, describe briefly what are the 7 isobaric patterns and the weather associated with them. So हमें थोड़ी सी है, very briefly I have written here. Of course इसकी detail है, हमें इतना meteorologist तो बनना नहीं है, but I should be able to predict the weather. That is the whole idea tomorrow when you are on the ship. So first is, these are the 7 isobaric patterns: straight isobars, cyclone or low, secondary cyclone or low, anticyclone, call, ridge or wedge, and trough. So these are the 7 isobaric patterns. Very easy to understand, very easy to write these questions, and इसका diagram बनाना भी not at all difficult. So सबसे पहले आपके straight isobars की, what are straight isobars? They are said to exist when the isobars run straight. Now you know, so you can write also, the isobars are the lines on the weather map joining areas of equal barometric or atmospheric pressure. They run straight, nearly parallel for few hundred miles. Pressure gradient usually low, resulting in low wind speeds. Wind direction, force remain constant so long the isobars remain unchanged. And the weather associated cannot be defined as it depends on the properties of the air mass in which these isobars exist. So these are, you can say, and you know that all these isobars are drawn at an interval of 4 millibar. तो ये भी आप स्केच भी कर सकते हो, वो भी लिख सकते हो, जितना आपको isobars के बारे में पता है कि yes, the distance between them, the wind speed between them, you can calculate. So it depends how much time you have and how many things you got to write. So straight isobars तो हो गए. Next comes your cyclone or low. Low pressure, I think most of us we know. Low pressure you can see in the center, and 976, 980, 984, 988. Now here the isobars are curved, and the wind circulation in the northern hemisphere, I think हमने अच्छी तरह से पढ़ लिया हुआ है that it is in anti-clockwise direction around the low pressure, and वो भी हमने देख लिया कि why it is, because of the resultant of pressure gradient and the Carolis effect. And लिखने के लिए cyclone or low is an area of low pressure surrounded by area of high pressure. Isobars, of course, in this case they form a closed shapes, and winds blow spirally inwards, anti-clockwise in northern hemisphere, clockwise in southern hemisphere. So ये भी आपने, this we have studied enough, and उसको समझा भी है, why? Because of the resultant of these winds. And the pressure gradient usually high, resulting in strong winds. So low is basically area of convergence of air. क्या हो गया? Somebody is trying to say something, is it? So low pressure area is basically an area of convergence of air. Convergence of air means the air is basically trying to accumulate, and then when the air is trying to accumulate, it has a tendency to rise. So when it has a tendency to rise, now you can well imagine, if the air has a tendency to rise, it will get cooled below the dew point, cloud formation. Isn't it? So simple to understand that around the low pressure, what happens, how the weather can be. On reaching the center, the air moves up as a strong upward current, resulting in cumulus or cumulonimbus clouds of very high vertical extent. And cumulonimbus, you know, heavy precipitation rain. So if you see the low pressure area cyclone on your weather map, so you can simply just very basics if you apply, so you can come to know there will be a clouds and heavy rain. Over the actual center of low, a thin downward stream of air exists where a patch of blue sky may be seen. So a cyclonic pattern or isobar is called a low or depression if the wind speed is 33 knots or less. So this is again the characterization or basically naming of these cyclonic patterns as per their wind speed. Cyclonic storm if the wind speed is 34 to 47, and severe cyclonic storm wind is more than 48 knots. This is again the meteorologist, so they give these names. Now very common, we keep on hearing them on the weather reports or on the various media. The severe cyclonic storm is going to approach this coast or that coast. So that means severe cyclonic storm means the wind speed will be definitely higher than the 48 knots. Now, despite the availability of weather forecast, it's important for a mariner to be able to recognize the precursory signs of a bad weather. That is what the whole idea is. Of course, today this science is, or this used to be an art, now it is becoming a science, and we are trying to lagging behind. We are all dependent on the instruments, isn't it? कि यार ये चीज़ है, हर चीज़ इंस्ट्रूमेंट पता है, इवन विंड स्पीड है वो भी हम कहते हैं यार कोई ना कोई इंस्ट्रूमेंट होना चाहिए. विंड डायरेक्शन है उसके लिए भी एनीमोमीटर होना चाहिए. एनीमोमीटर बंद हो गया तो we are left high and dry. We can't even make out which side the wind is coming from, isn't it? So anyway, ये चीज़ नहीं होनी चाहिए. Keep your basics, very basics about the nature. Keep it strong. So precursory signs of bad weather, and to know the weather sequence, shift of wind, which may be expected with the approach, passage and retreat of a well-defined depression. So अगर आपको थोड़ी चीज़ें पता है, in low pressure, how the wind moves, what is veering, what is backing, and what is convergence, divergence of air, and reading this weather report, the meteorologists give you a lot of information. अब आप उसको कैसे decipher करते हो, कैसे आप उसको समझते हो, and how you take action, that is up to you, up to your knowledge. So indeed, the safety of ship may well depend on such knowledge and ability to act on it. So this is what is basically, that is the idea of studying this, not that कि आप just for the sake of exam. So idea is tomorrow you should know. People will ask you कि yes, हाँ भी अभी weather report है, ये weather report क्या कह रही है. अगर मैं इसको कहूँ सर तो पता ही नहीं लग रहा weather report में लिखा क्या. People will laugh, isn't it? So the term depression is commonly applied to cyclones in latitudes which lie outside the tropics, but may also be used to describe a weak tropical cyclone. So ये तो था आपका cyclone और low pressure, and there is a secondary cyclone or low. So इसके लिए भी आपका pattern जो है, isobaric pattern looks like this. In the northern hemisphere, primary low. Again, around the low, you know, winds in anti-clockwise direction. Isobars situated at an interval of 4 millibar, and also there is another secondary low developing. So sometimes the primary low, which has well developed, this starts dissipating, and this secondary low, which is following it, it takes precedent and it becomes more stronger. And यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हो, which we will see this, the area between these two lows is normally known as the col, and even other side there is a high pressure which is trying to jet out into this low pressure area. So ये जो चीज़ है, this is also called the ridge. So इसको हम separately भी पढ़ेंगे, but in this pattern also you can see this. Secondary depression. What is this secondary depression? Which forms within the isobaric pattern of another, or the primary depression. So when the primary depression is old and filling up, secondary may develop and deepen till it is completely, or till it completely absorbs all traces of the primary. So secondary sometimes very strong, it takes over the primary one. So secondary has a steeper gradient, lower pressure at its center than the primary or parent depression. So इसके लिए यानी कि एक लो प्रेशर आया, then we see okay, we should feel happy, चलो अब तो लो प्रेशर ओवर हो गया, अब हम good weather. No, sometimes there it is followed by another one, and that can be a more stronger one, more high speed winds, more rain, more clouds it will give you. Secondary depressions often develop into much more vigorous system than their primaries. Anticyclone or high. Now, anticyclones are of course good weather. First of all, high pressure area, and in the northern hemisphere, you know, the wind pattern, these are the wind direction. So the wind pattern is in clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and anti-clockwise in the southern hemisphere. So ये patterns आपको थोड़े से समझने चाहिए, समझ के बनाने. Of course, initially it is not difficult to make, but to understand कि यार wind की जो direction है वो कैसे कैसे होगी. So very basics. I think send you the notes also. Book में भी है. how to calculate, how to see what is the normal direction around high and around low in the northern and southern hemispheres. So anticyclone, high pressure system also known as anticyclone, occurs when the weather is dominated by stable conditions. So high pressure area means good weather, stable conditions, and under an anticyclone, air is descending basically. So it is just accumulating there. It is not, diverging. So it is forming an area of high pressure at the surface, and because of these stable conditions, cloud formation will not be there because the air is just descending, it is not rising. So in anticyclone high pressure area, we won't see any cloud formation taking place, and the weather is usually settled with only very small amounts of cloud cover that can be any time there. So anticyclone है क्या चीज? Is an area of high pressure surrounded by low pressure. Isobars form a closed shapes in anticyclone, and both cyclone and anticyclone, you see these are isobars are basically of closed shapes. Winds blow spirally outwards, clockwise in northern hemisphere and anti-clockwise in southern hemisphere. So this is, we have seen, and pressure gradient usually low. So resulting in low wind speed, high pressure area, you know that there is a very low speed winds, no much disturbance, and area of divergence of air at sea level. So this outflow of air is balanced by the downward current of air at the center. So this is basically your anticyclone, or what we call high. Now this descending column of air warms up adiabatically. We know that very basic, if the air is rising, it has a tendency, it will lose temperature. It starts becoming cooler and cooler. And the opposite happens when the air starts descending. So when the air is descending, then it starts getting warmed up adiabatically without any exchange or without any addition of external heat, and becomes relatively drier and drier as it descends. Again, when the air is descending, becoming warmer, absence of total cloud, and no cloud, no precipitation, no rain. So therefore, sign of good weather, light winds, no clouds, no precipitation, good visibility. So if you see on the weather map, if you are heading, or there is a high pressure area, anticyclone coming in your path, so you can expect good visibility, isn't it? So today, as a duty officer, you are multitask officer, so you can inform the concerned people ki yes, now next 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, there will be a good weather, so people can plan their outside external jobs. So they will also appreciate, yeah, third officer is very good meteorologist, देखो उसने हमें पहले warn कर दिया. However, as the subsiding dry air reaches a sea level, blows spirally outwards, quick evaporation takes place, and if the temperature of the sea surface is quite low, mist or fog may form on the outer fringes, and in such cases the visibility at the center will be definitely good. And if the descending air is originally came from very cold source, now of course we know that it is again the different air masses where this air is moving. If this descending air is coming from a very colder region, so we call it a cold anticyclone, and if the descending air is coming from a warm source as compared to the surrounding air, then we call it a warm anticyclone. So anticyclone पे you got enough to write, enough to understand, and अगर आपको question आता है, write short notes, briefly describe anticyclone और cyclone system, आप उसके लिए इतना कुछ लिख सकते हैं. General characteristics: pressure gradient is slight, winds are light near the center, weather is usually quite dry and settled, land and sea breezes are marked, and especially during warmest months of the year. So we have studied this land and sea breeze, how does it take place. So this is also during these anticyclones. So in summer the weather is generally dry, sunny, warm, but within the outer portions of the system it is often cloudy with some rain. Winter weather may be again cloudless skies, sharp frost at night, and sky completely covered with little bit of stratus type of clouds. So ये तो आपका रहा anticyclone, good weather. Now comes the call. Call is basically area between two highs or two lows. Now you got the low here, high pressure here situated, and this large area in between this is normally known as the col. So col is, if you see, this is in the southern hemisphere, the wind pattern will be just opposite to the northern hemisphere. Now col is an area between two highs and two lows situated alternatively. Light variable winds experienced but not for long. Sudden change of weather is likely because you know that there are basically highs and lows situated quite close. So anyone jetting into it, so you know that there will be a definitely a pressure gradient existing, and the winds will have a tendency to go into the from high pressure to low pressure. So sudden change of weather is likely, relative humidity fairly high, lightning may be seen. So lightning के साथ you know that means there is a cloud formation and rain will be there. So col may be situated between a primary low and a secondary low. वो भी हमने देख लिया था कि between the two low pressure areas. No definite pattern of weather is associated with col. Fog may be experienced in autumn. In summer over land, thunderstorms frequently experienced. So this figure shows you between the two lows, the area is col, and then this low pressure area is jetting into the high pressure area. Now you can see these isobars of low pressure are trying to go towards the high pressure area. Similarly, if you see this is basically what we call the ridge. Now this high pressure area is jetting into the low pressure areas. ये भी low है, and this high pressure is trying to go towards the low pressures. So isobars are taking this form. Pressure is slowly 996, 992, and it is going over this. This is called the ridge. High pressure jetting into low pressure areas is known as the ridge. So ridge or a wedge of high pressure, a wedge-shaped extension of an anticyclone between two areas of low pressure. Isobars greatest curvature along the axis of the ridge and generally associated with fair weather of the anticyclone, often having light winds. So ridge, if you see, that means the high pressure area jetting into low pressure area, and it is coming in your passage, so you can expect good weather. So ridge in which the isobars are sharply curved generally moves faster than a flat ridge. इसका opposite आपका trough. Now trough is again that low pressure area jetting into high pressure. Ridge में क्या था? High pressure jetting into low pressure. यहाँ पे अब low pressure is jetting into high pressure. Similarly ये low trying to take over or getting closer to the high pressure. यहाँ पे आपका weather थोड़ा rough हो सकता है. The trough is an area of low pressure jetting into area of high pressure. Isobars curved, low pressure inside, but they do not form closed shapes. And pressure gradient fairly high, resulting in strong winds. इसके लिए, if you see the trough, winds blow from high pressure to low pressure. Bad weather is normally associated with the trough. And before the trough, pressure falls, weather deteriorates, and after the trough, the pressure rises and weather improves. So there are two types of troughs, frontal and of course non-frontal. So that we will study when we studied the fronts. So how the front formation takes place. तो ये तो आपके रहे 7 isobaric patterns. So थोड़ा सा इनको go through, sketch बनाने की कोशिश कीजिए. And if you have made the sketch, I think half the time you can understand things from the sketch. कि किसी भी स्पेशली मेट्रोलॉजी में अगर आपने आइसोबैरिक पैटर्न्स का स्केच बना लिया तो वैसे ही आपको समझ आ जाएगा कि हाँ यार क्या क्या होने वाला है. चलो, एनी क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम एनीबॉडी ऑन दिस? चलो, इसको बच्चे आई नो दैट आपको भी इतना इंटरेस्टिंग नहीं लगेगा. बाय द टाइम यू बिकम मास्टर्स फिर आप इसको समझना शुरू करोगे, कोशिश भी करोगे, बट फॉर एग्जाम्स के लिए आई थिंक दिस इज इनफ मटेरियल, nowhere to go. Everything is very nicely compiled here. And आप इसको पढ़िए और इसको थोड़ा सा कर लीजिए. अब इसके साथ आ जाता है कि चलो हमने ये हाई प्रेशर लो प्रेशर सिस्टम तो पढ़ लिया. now इसी के साथ है वेदर फोरकास्टिंग. कि नाउ वी अंडरस्टैंड कि यार ये जो प्रेशर सिस्टम है ये है क्या। अब आपका जो वेदर मैप्स हैं, यार हमने पढ़ना तो इनको वेदर मैप से ही है। सो लेट्स सी ये जो वेदर मैप्स हैं, या व्हाट वी कॉल दिस वेदर चार्ट्स, सो हाउ दीज लुक लाइक एंड इनके अंदर क्या क्या इंफॉर्मेशन है। सो कभी कभी हो सकता है इसके बारे में भी आपको पूछ लें कि व्हाट आर द वेरियस वेदर मैप्स, एंड मेरे को पता भी होना चाहिए। दीज आर वेरी सिंपल थिंग्स, व्हाट आर सिनॉप्टिक चार्ट्स और व्हाट आर प्रोग्नोस्टिक चार्ट्स, व्हाट आर द रूटिंग चार्ट्स। तो ये सारे क्या चीज़ें हैं, तो ये भी थोड़ी सी मेरे को नॉलेज होनी चाहिए, इजंट इट। सो वेदर फोरकास्टिंग में इफ यू सी कि वेदर मैप है क्या चीज़। अब हमने वेदर प्रेशर सिस्टम तो पढ़ लिया, और वेदर मैप इज बेसिकली द मोस्ट फंडामेंटल टूल फॉर अंडरस्टैंडिंग एंड प्रिडिक्टिंग द वेदर। Meteorologists who sitting far away who has compiled the data from lot of information from different sources. So he is trying to give you onto this map for you to take action. So large number of weather map and charts are produced at various hours of the day and in many forms, including a large number of facsimile products, both landline and marine radio facsimile. So I don't know how many of you have used a facsimile on the ships. So that's also a very good thing. So instead of writing, so they just give you the entire pattern of high and low pressure. And मैंने अब पढ़ लिया हाई प्रेशर लो प्रेशर क्या है, उसके साथ वेदर कैसा है. So for me it's very easy to understand. So facsimile products are exact productions of the original documents and are transmitted by radio. So weather maps received as facsimile products include numerous analysis charts, a great variety of prognostic charts and many other charts including satellite photographs, weather depictions, wave height charts, cloud studies. Nowadays these wave height charts are very common. They are very helpful, especially if you are working on these container ships. You are carrying 7-8 high containers on deck. It is the wave height which basically travels the ship. And a lot of time even the companies, they also monitor, they also got a lot of sources where they monitor this what we call the weather very closely, because the owner is definitely more bothered about his property. So they also guide you that please divert this way, that way, where the wave height is not more, because the ship is going to very heavily roll and pitch, so which is dangerous for the cargo as well as for the ship. So ये चीज़ जो है weather map के through ही. So few of the common terms used to refer to certain types of facsimile products or other weather charts are basically you will see. So first of all is synoptic charts. What are synoptic charts? The word synoptic simply means a summary of current situation. And ये है कि yes, we want to know what is happening in the immediate future. Next 6 hours, what type of weather? And second, when I am passage planning or I am interested कि ठीक है 6 hours का weather तो है, but इससे आगे 24 hours, 48 hours वहाँ में weather कैसा मिलेगा. So that is all a little ahead of it, that we call prognostic charts. Synoptic charts are basically giving you the current situation of the weather. Synoptic chart is a scientific term for a weather map and summarizes atmospheric conditions, temperature, rain, wind speed, wind direction, atmospheric pressure and cloud coverage. That is all is your total weather. That's what you want to know over a wider area at a given time. So this information is conveyed using your various symbols which are explained in a very different form. So we know these symbols, how these symbols or what these symbols mean, like these are the fronts, cold front, warm front, occluded front, and this is again no need to mention, we know these are the isobars showing different pressures. So here fronts की movement भी दिखा रहा है. This cold front is moving in this direction, warm front is moving in this direction. So weather map से आपको ये थोड़ी सी नॉलेज मिल जाती है. क्यों? अब मैंने इसके बारे में पढ़ा, आइसोबार्स के बारे में पढ़ लिया, फ्रंट्स के बारे में पढ़ लिया. सो आई नो अब मेरा पैसेज कैसा है, वेयर फ्रॉम वेयर to where I am going, so I can definitely make out what type of weather I am going to get. So synoptic charts display an overview of weather conditions observed from many different weather stations, aeroplanes, balloons, satellites. उन सबको ये compile करके how nicely they give us a very accurate weather. By collating the information over a wide area, meteorologists can observe the behavior and movement of weather formations that might affect their local area in the future. So this lot of information is gathered even today, even in India. You see this every day if you are reading the newspaper and all that, they are telling you about the monsoons, about the weather, when it's going to rain. So they have a lot of computers, lot of things, lot of places where they get information. So to keep prediction, if you can predict, it helps on land, it helps a lot of people, farmers for their crop, when it is going to rain, when they will. So all these things are helpful. And at sea, basically I am interested, yes, ship should not land up into bad weather, isn't it? A ship is a ship, floating object है, उसके ऊपर so much cargo, so many people are there. So we want to avoid those bad weathers. That is why these charts are there. So this allows meteorologists to make more accurate weather forecast. Charts are usually updated every 6 hours, and many different type of weather map drawn usually internationally agreed standards. ये भी नहीं है कि सबने अपनी भाषा में. These are all on the international level. International symbols are used. So information obtained from the synoptic charts, isobaric patterns such as anticyclones, depressions, fronts, cloud cover, clear sky to complete cloud cover, 8 octaves. So everything is given in your synoptic charts. Wind speed, direction, temperature, dew point. So ये चीज़ आपको पढ़नी है because this is what they're going to ask you in the exam कि यार synoptic chart क्या होता है and what all information is given in the synoptic charts. Now you know that पढ़ने की जरूरत ही नहीं. If you have understood कि अच्छा synoptic chart is the current situation, chart depicting the current situation of the atmosphere. Atmosphere के और weather के लिए हमें क्या चाहिए? All these things: wind, temperature, pressure system, rain or no rain, cloud or no cloud, यही चाहिए. The pressure gradient, of course, we all have studied the fall of pressure with distance. And if the distance between the consecutive isobar is small, pressure gradient is said to be high, strong winds. And if the distance between the isobar is large, pressure gradient is said to be small, winds of low speed are expected. So this is a very basic thing which you, nothing to remember, it's very common. And pressure gradient can be estimated using geostrophic wind scale also. Now that also we have seen how to calculate the wind speed by the divider from the chart, I mean from this geostrophic wind scale. ये भी हमने देख लिया. This also we understand कि ये कैसे निकालना है, वो भी हमें पता लग जाता है. Now there is another called synoptic wave chart. A chart of an ocean area on which is plotted synoptic wave reports from the vessels along with computed wave heights for areas where reports are lacking. So atmospheric fronts, highs, lows are also shown. ISO lines of wave height means lines showing similar height of waves, same height of waves, and boundaries of areas having dominant wave direction are drawn. So I told you ship is not getting affected by wind as much it gets affected by the wave or swell, what we call, isn't it? So if you have a wave height of 4 to 5 meters, we will definitely try to avoid. So wave charts are very important, which is again due to technology, this research or the equipment, they are going to predict, they can see, they can observe, and they can tell us in advance, especially if you are approaching sometime Bay of Biscay and all that, and even in the English Channel from the Atlantic Ocean. So you know there the weather is bad, the wind wave height is quite high. So ships can roll very violently, so which can be dangerous for the cargo. So these wave height charts basically look like this. So they give you the direction. So they are given this color coded less than 1 meter, 1 to 2 meter, and this is 2 to 3, and basically 3 to 4 green wala. This is dark one is basically here the wave height and the direction of the wave is 2 to 3 meter. Orange is of course less, but this is again 5 to 6 meters, which is dangerous. Surface analysis charts, actual situation existent given time based on actual reports, and surface charts are the which give the actual weather situation at a preceding synoptic hour over the entire area. So synoptic hours are 3, 6, 9, 12 hours of GMT. So it gives you the weather for the this thing. Now surface prognostic charts. Prognosis charts are, prognosis is the predicted situation. Prognosis means कि आपने estimate किया कि yes present तो ये है, and you estimate how these frontal systems or the weather systems or pressure systems are moving. So this predicted situation at a specified future time based on present indications as deduced by an expert on the subject. So surface prognostic charts are the charts that contain same type of information as contained in surface analysis but predicted for a specified future time. Can be 12 hours, 18 hours, 1, 2, 3 days or 5 days. So that is very good thing. So these charts are used by mariner in understanding the weather situation and routing the vessel according to the weather. So ये prognostic charts हैं. Of course you can see कि 1 day, 2 days, 24 or 48 hours में, and you know where your ship will be in 48 hours and what type of weather I am going to face. So determination of surface winds, of course we know weather map show high pressure, low pressure areas, atmospheric pressure at various locations, and then we know the surface winds blow from area of high to low, and map also shows fronts, cold front, warm front, occluded front, depressions, etc. So basically on the vessel passing through such a system, it helps us. So forecasting movements of fronts with the help of prognostic charts for different times, we can predict movement of fronts and use this information to our advantage and avoid areas of bad weather. So जैसे जैसे आप इसको weather report को देखोगे, I know that because on the ship अभी आप कहोगे ठीक है, chief officer is there, captain is there, let them study and let them tell us, isn't it? But sooner or later you will also be becoming the captain. So then your second officer, third officer will be expecting same thing, and जिसकी जितनी अच्छी knowledge है वो he will be the person will be most liked. Yeah, captain knows, he can predict the weather, and even I told you I have sailed on Atlantic Ocean. The captain used to come night time and he used to tell us, okay, where is the wind direction? Wind is from this direction. He'll say, okay, after 12 o'clock or after 2 o'clock the wind will change, it will come to your port bow. वैसा ही होता था. So then we used to wonder, yeah, how does captain knows the full ocean का weather? So उनका interest था plus experience. So he has crossed Atlantic many times, couple of 100 times. प्लस उसके साथ उन्होंने उसकी स्टडी भी की थी, ये नहीं कि क्रॉसिंग करने, क्रॉस तो सारे करते हैं. So he knew every month of the year that what type of weather we are going to face. So if he could do that, so definitely he will divert the ship before the bad weather comes. So ये भी एक important चीज बन जाती है. Forecasting sea fog, surface analysis, prognostic charts provide information on air temperature. So अगर air temperature अगर आपको पता है, sea temperature है, we can of course progress the sea fog also. Now comes Facsimile charts. So I will not go in detail. Facsimile charts, of course, Facsimile recorder is a radio telegraphic device. It enables a map produced assured to be reproduced automatically in a recorder on board the ship. So I don't know if you have used or not, but sometimes it's a very good thing. The details are given in the ALRS, frequencies, time, stations. So you tune it to that station, so you get the very good weather map showing all the pressure systems. Is a Facsimile chart. Recorder works on HF frequency, small in dimension, can easily be installed in the chart room, and weather map produced by it is free of any corrupt groups and transmission. So there is nothing writing. अब जैसे हम वेदर रिपोर्टिंग आपने देखी है, वेदर कोडिंग, तो कुछ गलती हो गई तो आप उसका मीनिंग अलग ले लो. यहाँ पे तो उसने मैप बना दिया, सो इट इज़ वेरी इजी टू स्टडी द मैप, लो प्रेशर हाई प्रेशर एरियाज. Facsimile charts are of course एनालिसिस एंड प्रोग्नोसिस, उसमें भी एनालिसिस एंड प्रोग्नोसिस चार्ट्स रहते हैं, वेव चार्ट्स भी होते हैं. नाउ कम्स, इसकी नॉलेज थोड़ी सी आप सबको होनी चाहिए, रूटिंग चार्ट्स. आई थिंक मोस्ट ऑफ यू हैव सीन दिस. सो एग्जाम में क्वेश्चन भी आ सकता है, व्हाट आर द रूटिंग चार्ट्स. ओरल्स में भी आपको पूछ सकते हैं, व्हाट आर द रूटिंग चार्ट्स. ऑफ कोर्स यू कैन से यू हैव सीन. सो द एग्जामिनर वांट्स टू नो कि आपको, बिकॉज आई एम गोइंग टू यूज दैट टुमारो, इजंट इट, एज अ सेकंड ऑफिसर फॉर द पैसेज प्लानिंग. सो दीज चार्ट्स आर एसेंशियल फॉर यूज इन पैसेज प्लानिंग फॉर ओशियन वॉयजेस. सो जब आपने ओशियन पैसेजेस करने हैं तो आपको लॉट ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन यू गैदर यार कहाँ पे कैसा वेदर मिलेगा, कहाँ पे कैसा करंट मिलेगा, फेवरेबल. Naturally, we want to take the favorable current, isn't it? Nobody wants to go against the current, burn extra fuel. So they include routes, distances between major ports, ocean currents, ice limits, load lines, wind roses, with expected meteorological and oceanographic conditions for each month of the year. So as I think we have discussed before, these routing charts basically are for all the 5 oceans: North Atlantic, South Atlantic, North Pacific, South Pacific, and Indian Ocean. And there are printed monthly. So you have 12 charts for each year, every month. So 12 into 5, 60 charts, expensive ones, but very helpful. 5 charts cover oceans of the world: North Atlantic, South, and Indian Ocean. Routing charts are published by again UKHO, Hydrographic Office, and again US also prints them, and there is a routing chart for each month. Now most of you have seen how it looks like, all this information, wind roses, तो वो भी हमने पढ़ लिया wind rose क्या होता है, उसके ऊपर information क्या है. So now the idea is that when you become the navigating officer, you should have a thorough knowledge of यार chart है क्या, इसके अंदर क्या क्या information दी है, and how to use this information to my benefit, isn't it? That is the whole idea. Job है ये तो, profession है ये तो, isn't it? कोई academic exam तो है नहीं कि पढ़ के भूल जाना है. So जितना आप इसको जान सकते हो उतना it is more beneficial. If I know, if I am going from this place to this place, what type of current I am going to face, how helpful it is. कितनी किसी ने रिसर्च की है कि यार इस एरिया में how the water movement is taking place, which helps me. If I get 1 knot current, कितना फ्यूल बचा सकता हूँ, and if I get 1 knot against, how much extra fuel I have to burn. So आपकी efficiency as a captain tomorrow, that how you go from one place to another place with the least burning of the fuel. What all data is given? Anybody any idea? चलो आपसे नहीं मैं पूछता. List the data that is available on monthly routing charts. The data is that is available on monthly chart is ice information, maximum ice limits, position of ocean weather ships, recommended tracks, distances, Barre windrows, areas of low visibility, mean air temperature guide, Beaufort wind force of 7 and higher, predominant areas, जहाँ पे predominant है wind force 7, dew point, mean sea temperatures, ये भी दिए होते हैं, load line, demarcation limits, and scale. What is the scale of the chart? In addition, load lines for Red Sea, Black Sea, Suez, iceberg limit, and pack ice limit. Ocean currents, predominant direction and speed in knots. तो ये सारा आपका रूटिंग चार्ट्स पे आपको बहुत अच्छी तरह से वेरी वेल एक्सप्लेन इन वेरी सिंपल लैंग्वेज फॉर एनीबॉडी टू अंडरस्टैंड. अब आप इसको कैसे यूज करते हो इन योर बेनिफिट, दैट डिपेंड्स टू ऑन योर नॉलेज. तो आपने सब चीज़ों को पढ़ लिया है कि हाँ यार करंट्स क्या हैं, विंड रोज क्या है, हाउ टू प्रेडिक्ट द विंड, हाउ टू सी, how to understand. So this will definitely help you. Now, weather bulletins, ऐसा तो क्वेश्चन नहीं है बट कई बार पूछ सकते हैं. The weather bulletins, what are the contents or weather bulletins are issued in 6 parts. So ये सारे 6 parts हैं: storm warnings, synopsis of weather conditions, forecast, analysis of present weather situations in code form, and selection of ships reports in code. And part 6 is the selection of relevant land stations reports. So weather bulletins आपको of course during radio officers time used to get all these weather bulletins. So हम सबसे पहले part 1 देखते थे, हाँ यार storm warning, so it used to be written no storm warning. बस, so we were very happy. Part 1 no storm warning, very good. So आजकल of course you have different type, but कई बार आपको पूछा जा सकता है weather bulletin क्या है, कितने parts होते हैं. चलो, that's all I have for you today. Any questions so far? So meteorology, I think, in my opinion, almost covered. तो इसको पढ़ते रहिए. एक टाइम मिलेगा तो एक TRS के बारे में, आई थिंक वी हैव नॉट डन ना TRS, डिस्कस किया TRS के बारे में. क्या कहते हो? हाँ जी, anybody? Any questions so far?
No sir.
So मेट्रोलॉजी आपकी ऑलमोस्ट ख़त्म है, तो TRS आपके रिटर्न्स में तो नहीं आता, बट ओरल्स में समटाइम आई हैव सीन दिस एग्जामिनर्स कैन आस्क यू, सो जैसे टाइम मिलेगा, सो एटलीस्ट ब्रीफली आई विल गो थ्रू दैट, सो यू शुड हैव एन आइडिया. वैसे आपके सिलेबस में नहीं है, बट we cannot say tomorrow I'm going to be a second officer and I have no knowledge about TRS, so it looks something very different. But सिलेबस में नहीं है मीन्स कि उसके ऊपर रिटर्न में क्वेश्चन नहीं आपको आ सकते, बट नॉलेज तो होनी चाहिए. वेरी बेसिक थिंग ये भी मीटरोलॉजी की है, इट. सो उसको भी हम ब्रीफली थोड़ा सा आई विल अपडेट यू. TRS होता क्या है, फॉर्मेशन, प्रिकर्सरी साइंस, एंड हाउ टू और व्हाट एक्शन टू अवॉइड दिस स्टॉर्म. सो इंटरेस्टिंग है, बट चलो कोई बात नहीं.
ओके सर.
चलो भैया, आज के लिए इतना ही है. सो नेक्स्ट वीक वी विल कंटिन्यू विद द टैंकर थ्योरी, एंड ऑफ कोर्स जो आपके डाउट्स हैं, सो वी विल कवर अप नेक्स्ट मंथ. टैंकर, केमिकल्स, गैस, एंड उसके बाद टाइम बचेगा तो अपनी रिवीजन. ओके, चलो, ऑल द बेस्ट, टेक केयर, एंजॉय योर सैटरडे. अच्छा, वो यू हैव गॉट अ क्लास अगेन, आपकी तो एक क्लास और भी है.
Okay sir. Thank you sir.
Thank you, sir.
वेलकम, वेलकम,
Thank you, sir.
वेलकम.